In today's video, I'm gonna review, test, and judge detail miniature painting brushes. And with detail brushes, I mean the brushes you use for base coat, layering, blending, and yada 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 yada. No dry brush, no silicone brushes, and no flip brushes. And stay tuned until the end so you can find out what is the best brushes in the world, in my opinion. Let's get to know our contestants, shall we? We got Artis Opus Series S, which is the most expensive both in the US and EU, with $21, size 1 and size 2. Then we have Raphael 8404, the second most expensive with $20, 1 and 0. Broken Toad Series MK3, size 1, coming to the price of $14. And finally, the Vinci Maestro Series 70, size 2, short and pointed and long and pointed. These last two brands, you can find them in the link down below, Lilliput Miniatures. Using the code ataraxia at checkout, you get 8% discount, so you can get your brushes and support the channel and make my sponsor happy. Please do that, otherwise it's gonna drop me. All these brushes are natural hair brushes. This means they're not gonna be cheap, but even if you're a beginner, I think it's really important to invest a little bit of money, $15, $20 into good brushes, because they can really help you out and make your life a lot easier, because painting with bad brushes is annoying. And with a little bit of cleaning and care, you can avoid fucking them up, even if you're a beginner. I'm gonna assess the length of the belly and the storage capacity, sharpness of the point, how it feels while applying the colors, and last but not least, durability and tendency to split. And at the end, I'm gonna rate them 0 to 10 in each category. Let's begin. Starting with Artis Opus Series S, you can already see there's no big difference between size 1 and size 2. The length and size of the bristle change a lot from company to company. They're pretty thin, they don't have a big belly, which tells me they won't hold as much paint. Still, they look pretty sharp. Let's test them, shall we? I start applying my base coat with size 1 brush, and it feels pretty weird. Plus, I have to keep going back to pick up the paint because the reservoir is too small. So I try to switch to the size 2 and have to say there isn't much difference, to be honest. It still feels pretty weird. Not just because of the small belly, but also because of the toughness of the bristles. They don't feel very flexible. Let's try some detail work. For this kind of application I'm trying on this bust, I can already feel the difference. It works pretty well. Still, I probably had more control with size 1. I feel more in control of the brush and the paint I'm pushing with it. These brushes are better for the small details applications, the bling, dotting, and whatnot. So very, very good for this type of brushstroke. Next we have Raphael 8404, size 1 and size 0. Let's just compare it with Artis Opus size 1. You can see there is a big difference. Look at the size of that belly. Even the size 0, there's still a big reservoir of paint, and that's what you want for base coating and layering. Enough talking, let's put them to work. Starting with size 1, I can already feel the difference by just picking up the color. And look at this. Look at how much paint does it keep. Careful about not overdoing this though, because we don't want paint to go too near the ferrule. The application is on point. It's quicker, more effective, and the application feels overall better because I have a lot of paint in the bristles and they are very flexible, and it just feels better. Also, if I want, I can use the pretty sharp tip to pick up details. Very versatile, exactly what you want for a brush, especially if you are a beginner. With size 0, it feels more similar to Artis Opus, but still the application is more smooth because the bristles are more flexible. You lose a bit of that reservoir because the belly, it's a little bit smaller, but still it feels pretty good. Let's see how they fare with detail work. Starting from size 0 with the same bust here, it feels good. I have control that I need for this task, this kind of brushstroke. With the bigger one, maybe is gonna be more difficult. Nope. Nope, feels good. Feels good. With this one too, these brushes are very, very versatile, especially size 1, because you have a very big belly and a good point. The bristles are a bit longer, but it doesn't seem to affect my control of the stroke. Beautiful, beautiful. I like it. Next, we have the Vinci Maestro Series 70, long and pointed and short and pointed. Comparing them with Raphael, we have a similar side with a less belly, a little bit thinner. Let's test them and see how they fare with both base coating and detail. I'm starting with the short and pointed. This one is visually more similar to Artis Opus. Still, the feel of application, it's very different, more pleasant, I would say. I feel the paint flowing better. I can do base coats and work in the details because the point is pretty sharp. It has a smaller belly, so I have to use a smaller brush stroke and load the brush more often. Yeah, overall, it's pretty good. Let's test the long and pointed now, shall we? And oh, it feels great. It has a larger belly, so I can store more paint, still keeping a very sharp point, probably the sharpest so far. At the end of the day, it's all gonna come down to how the brush feels. That can be very subjective, so I'm just giving my opinion here, which is worth listening to, right? Right, guys? Right? Let's test the details now. Starting with the long and pointed, I can feel there's a lot of flexibility here, but still with plenty of control, which is great for details. Now with the short and pointed, being shorter, I have a slightly more control of the brush stroke. There is a slight change on how the brush feels. I maybe like the longer better because it feels better overall for details and base coating, giving us the versatility we need for a brush. They're both great. Last but not least, we have Broken Tooth Miniature Series MK3 size 1, and I also have a smaller one. This is a 3/0, but it's not new, so I won't actually test it today. Size 1 has the biggest belly of them all, even compared with Raphael, although bigger in this case doesn't mean better. I recently had some issues with Broken Tooth brushes, but more on that later. Let's jump into testing, shall we? So I bought a bunch of these a while ago, but like I said before, I had some issues with them. Sometimes it's just a bad batch. Some other times it's the production quality that's deteriorating. Winsor & Newton, that's why I didn't put those in. It feels weird. There is something very weird about these brushes. Like I said, I don't know if that's just a bad batch or I don't know, because usually I used to like this brand very much and it used to have high quality, so maybe it's a bad batch, I don't know, but it feels weird. But this I'm using, even though it's new, it feels very weird. It has a very big belly, but the paint doesn't seem to flow well off the brush. I don't feel very in control of what I'm doing. You can see the point, it's already flattening after a few minutes of application. Maybe it's a bad batch, I don't know. Let me know what you think down below. For details, it feels slightly better. The point stays in place, but still, for this job, you don't need that big belly it has. And if this brush feels weird and uncomfortable to use for base coating, it's gonna be missing that versatility I'm looking for. But the other size, the size that I hadn't the new one of, 3/0, it's very, very good to point very small details like eye lenses on 28mm figures and whatnot. And now
Judgment Day has come.
I'm gonna give my overall score for each category and then tell you what is my favorite, what is the best brush in all the world. So, Artis Opus, what's the verdict? By testing this, I figured that these brushes are mostly good for detail work because they're very sharp and accurate. Still, they're not very good for base coating, especially with a little bit larger areas. I want my expensive brushes to be versatile, not just do the one thing, because especially in the beginning, base coating and layering are gonna be the main brush work you're gonna do. And in order to do it well, you need a sharp point and a big belly, which for the price of $21, Artis Opus does not have. So Artis Opus gets a 4 for the belly, an 8 of sharpness, 6 for feel, and durability is not accessible because I never used this brush before, so I can't really tell you. I've just been using them for a couple of weeks now. But if you try them, you can leave a comment down below and let me know. What do you think about the durability of these brushes? Are they worth $21? I don't know. Maybe. So the verdict for this. Like I said, they have a big belly, pretty sharp point, good for details, good for base coating, and good for stippling. Still, sometimes they can open up a bit and split, but if you roll it on the tip, it's gonna be fine. These are the second most expensive brushes, coming to a price of $20, but they are a good investment, especially for beginners, because they can take care of multiple tasks. I would recommend beginners to get a size 1. Raphael 8404 gets a 10 for the belly, a solid 7 for sharpness, an 8 for feel, and a 7 for durability, because I've used this in the past and they are pretty durable. Next, so the Vinci Maestro Series 70 have very good brushes. Good for base coating, good for detail work. They have a slightly smaller belly, but still they have a good enough reservoir of paint to not get me pissed. And the tips are super sharp and they are probably the sharpest. And I like the feeling they give me during the application of the colors, both during layering base coating and like stippling. Maestro gets a 7 for belly, 10 for sharpness, 9 for feel, and 8 for durability, because they're pretty badass brushes. So what's the verdict? They're pretty decent for detail, especially 3/0. I like it very much because I've been using it for a long while now and still it's sharp and durable. For the one size, I really can't tell you if that's a bad batch or if it's just broken till this has a deteriorating quality. I don't know. For this brush in particular, I can tell you the feeling was weird, as if I can use it for base coating, I won't use it for detail work because I have other brushes that can do both better. I would use them instead. So Birkentoad gets an 8 for belly, a 6 for sharpness, 4 for feel, and a 6 for durability. So,
what is the best brush in the whole miniature world?
the answer is, well, it doesn't exist. There is no best brush in the world. For me, it all comes down to what you feel while you paint, which is very subjective. So it's impossible to pick apart one in particular. All the brushes I mentioned in this video are very, very good brushes. And you gotta choose what's the best brush for you and for your style of painting. For me, the best brush ever on the market, it's ever changing because my style changes, my level of skill change. But right now, my favorite brushes are the Maestro Series 70. You can find it in the store and make my sponsor happy. Hopefully this video will help you find the perfect brush for you and your style of painting.